George Harrison Prabhu Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. Big thanks to Govinda and company for that nice kirtan. Govinda and devotees, they're going out several times a week around London and around the local towns as well. How many of you seen the devotees out on the street, where it happens to be? Put your hands up. Come on, wave your hands. Wave your hands. Put both hands up and say Hare Bol. Put 3 hands up and say Hare Krishna. Put your feet up and dance and say whatever you want to say. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for coming. This is an informal kind of gathering. It looks a bit stiff and proper. Lovely facility. First time we've been here, as we said before. We've had this program in the prasadam room for the past 20 years. 20 years, ever since George left this mortal material realm. And we feel honored that we can give him some recognition. Recognition. We're all looking for recognition, aren't we? We're looking for recognition from our partner. We're looking for some recognition from the boss. And if we're self-employed, we're looking for some recognition from the customers. But in material life, we don't look for recognition from God or the saintly persons who come to give God's message. We don't go for that. Spiritual life means to be recognized in the right way, of course, in the right way. And the wonderful thing about George was he second to Srila Prabhupada. I say this every year because some of you have been around quite a few years. So you'll hear some familiar old things that we're saying. George was next to Srila Prabhupada. He probably did more to spread and make Hare Krishna a household word than anybody. I don't know how many of you... I've got a few questions to ask you. Let's make this a bit reciprocal. How many of you had heard of George Harrison only after you came to the temple? Don't be shy. Put your hand up. Wave it around. My eyesight's not very good. Okay. Not many, but I know some of you never heard of him before. How many of you heard of George Harrison before you heard of the Hare Krishnas? Okay, a few more. Because, of course, George was a household name, wasn't he? Although these days, you say George Harrison. Who's George Harrison? Who's George Harrison? Who is he? Oh, the Beatles, yeah, like the Rolling Stones, isn't it? Yeah. No, not quite. Bit different, a different energy, a very, you could say, celestial, angelic energy. Prabhupada was asked one time, and I don't know who asked him, they played Prabhupada a couple of music tracks, and I don't know what the tracks were, but on one hand, they played him a track from the Pink Floyd. Any Pink Floyd fans here? Yeah, they were pretty good, the Pink Floyd. And then they played Prabhupada a track from the Beatles. So they said, Prabhupada, what do you think of this music, Pink Floyd? And I hope Roger Waters, etc., isn't listening in. Or if you are, just bear with us, because we're chilled out down here. But Prabhupada said, ghost music. And you listen to some of it, it's kind of very ethereal, kind of astral. And we used to use... How many of you here remember of course, the Bhaktivedanta Players does a regular theatre here. But way back in the 70s, we used to use Pink Floyd tracks a lot in the backing tracks for our theatre. And we used to use quite a few of them because they're very atmospheric. Anyway, that's the Pink Floyd. Played the Beatles, what did Prabhupada say? From the heavenly planets. Now, why would that be? Their words aren't all heavenly, are they? It's about, boy and girl and lost love and hopes and this disillusion, blah, blah, blah. I thought about it. I thought it's the harmony of the voices. The cooperation between those four. They were locked in cooperation. So much so that they almost got on top of each other and finally it just was too much. But working in that deep cooperation, harmonics, and amazing things they produced. And I always say every year, so forgive me those who've heard it before, I'm of the opinion that the Beatles were there and they revolutionized Western pop music for sure. They broke down all the barriers and they were what's the word? They were pioneers. And my opinion, I don't know if you'd agree with me, I always think of the Beatles as being the setting. You know, you got a beautiful jewel. You have a nice jewel, that's a nice jewel, but put it in a nice setting, it really sets it off. So my opinion is that the Beatles were the setting for... Who? The jewel in the crown. Yes, well, who was the jewel in the crown? For George Harrison, yes. The setting. Would George have had the success he did without being a member of the Beatles? I don't think so. Because he had such fame, prestige. He had such a input. He was a pathfinder, a trailblazer. He was an advocate of vegetarianism, Eastern mysticism, yoga, the Indian sound, sitar, Norwegian wood. Of course, they also experimented with the balalaika, but Russian music never caught on. Don't know why that was. But always breaking ground, breaking new ground. And the Beatles would, I mean, the seminal one that breaking so much was Sgt. Pepper, wasn't it? Sgt. Pepper. And what was the amazing track on Sgt. Pepper that really took the whole thing to a different level altogether? Within You, Without You, yes. Anyone here not heard Within You, Without You? Don't be shy. Oh, you heard Within You, Without You. That's amazing. That's very deep words. I used to play that over and over and over again, that record. It's, we usually do a little, sing a song of it or make a poem of it, but we've done it every year, so we're not going to do it this year. I love that one. I love that. We were talking about the space between us all. Think of it. This is you talking. This is George talking. We're all doing this. We were talking about the space between us all. And the people who hide themselves behind a wall of illusion never glimpse the truth. Then it's far too late when they pass away. My God, what depth. Mortality? You're talking about mortality in a pop song? Yeah, but the dressing was amazing. That mesmerizing Indian sitar and the violins and amazing sound. When I first said, wow, what is this? I played it over and over again. We were talking about the love that's gone so cold. And the people who gain the world but lose their soul. They don't know. They can't see. Are you one of them? Try to realize it's all within yourself. No one else can make you change. And the time will come when you see we're all one and life flows on within you and without you. And the time will come when you see you're really only very small and life flows on within you and without you. That's just a summary, of course. What an amazing song. But George was always my favorite Beatle. But it's amazing how he left it all behind when he didn't like to be referred to as a Beatle. He said, call me a gardener. I'm a gardener. And he was. Not just digging the ground and planting bushes and trees and flowers, but he was a gardener through his music. He was gardening. Anyone who listened to his music, just the slightest interest. Oh, Hare Krishna. George, he's into Hare Krishna, isn't he? So his spiritual message was, what a wonderful gift he had in the form of his music, and what a mission he took on to just naturally to spiritualize that deep interest. He wanted to use his music as a vehicle for a higher message. Anyway, we could go on eulogizing Paul. Excuse me. Whoa. We will, Paul. I don't know if you're listening, but we like your music. But a different dimension. John's, there we go again, you see. Okay, we'll bring in Ringo as well. He's a great drummer. Back to George now. Yes, George was really something else. Who's read his book, I Me Mine? Anyone read George's book, I Me Mine? Put it in your hands. Not many. It's basically a book of all his songs. Not because he hadn't finished Brainwashed, that amazing album, his last album, which was a posthumous album. But he writes about those different songs, and we'll be having some of his songs by some of the devotees here. And the Inner Light Band are going to be playing. They're like a cover band for the George's songs. Really quite, very, very good. Very good. Totally recommend them. So if you've got any parties, any you rich guys, rich people who have, weddings and big parties and big marquees in the back garden, bring in the inner light. Give you some, a bit of music with a difference. George Harrison music. That's a plug, you guys, so don't go walking out on this one. All right, thank you. So we're totally chaotic here. Those of you who went to our prasadam room, George evenings, it was very family, like a bit like the back room of a pub. No beer, of course, and no cigarettes, but kind of shoulder to shoulder, and it was just a party mood, family, So in a similar way, it's hopefully here, not too stiff, and we're in a nice venue here, and actually, I've got to forget this, but we're online. This is going out all over the place. We're online. So every hiccup here and every stutter and every glitch, the whole world knows. So I've got to forget that, otherwise I'll be a bag of nerves. So I don't know if you're online. Maybe you're for it. Maybe someone will be around with a camera, show oh, he's there. I know her. So anyway, it's meant to be informal. Have a good time. What are we going to do now? We've got some movies for you. Oh, I've got to mention this. We did advertise Dhananjaya, our godbrother, who was one of the first devotees in UK. And he had some association with George. He was involved in looking for various properties, and he was played a significant role in finding Bhaktivedanta Manor. Now, I called him up a couple of weeks ago, and he said, yes, he'd love to come, but he's not well. He's not well at all. So he phoned yesterday to say, I'm sorry, I can't come. So for those of you who are coming to hear Dhananjaya, I'm sorry to disappoint you. But just say a prayer for his well-being. He couldn't be here, nor his wife. Trilokanath, are you around somewhere? Do you want to come and do your piece? Yeah, this is Trilokanath. Big hand. He's a very talented musician. Yeah, I'll route for you. Get everyone stirred after. What are you going to sing? Okay, that'd be nice. Yeah.
Put this on. Hello, Hare Krishna, everybody. So I'm just going to do a couple of songs on my own, and then later be playing with the band, and that'll be a lot better. They're all good, the people I play with in the band. So just before I start, I thought I'd tell you, keeping up the tradition of talking, that, and also I just want to check this microphone's working, and that I've got the volumes matched, because I can't hear anything out of this at the moment. Oh, there you go. So I was just going to tell you, I think it was probably late 1962 or early 1963 that I first saw the Beatles on television. And I thought to myself, who do they think they are? I was only 6 years old, but I thought, but actually I grew to love their music very much, and they really became the soundtrack to my life. As you can imagine, through my childhood and teens, a lot of Beatles. But 1967, I heard this song the Beatles released called I Am the Walrus. And on that song, John Lennon sings Elementary Penguin singing Hare Krishna. So I didn't know what that was, but I was sure singing it myself, because that's what you did. You'd play the records and sing them over and over again. So I was actually chanting Hare Krishna long before I knew anything about Krishna and long before I knew about the devotees. But it was the holy name, And although my chanting wasn't pure, it sure wasn't offensive chanting, and it was what we might call namabas. So that's chanting, you know, without really knowing what you're chanting, not really chanting with devotion, but it's not offensive, and there's a great benefit to doing that. And then, of course, I was listening to George Harrison's All Things Must Pass album in 1970, and that album is cram-packed full with Krishna consciousness, actually. And then I met the devotees, I think, that was in 1977, all that time afterwards. But by the time I met the devotees, I already sort of knew a lot of the philosophy. So anyway, I just thought I'd tell you that, because if it wasn't for George Harrison, it was certainly George that introduced me to Krishna consciousness, and George, that really, because of George, I got to know about Srila Prabhupada. And becoming a devotee, for me, has totally transformed my life into a very happy one, you know. I still moan, but, you know, Krishna consciousness is where it's at as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, enough talking. I'm sure you've heard enough. Oh, thank you. So I'm going to try and do the best I can for George, singing these couple of songs. The first one is George really pointing out how a bad thing, it's not very good to have an ego, what we call a false ego, you know, to be egotistical. So this song is called I, Me, Mine. I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. All through the night, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. Now they're frightened of leaving it, everyone's weaving it, coming on strong all the time. All through the day, I, me, mine. 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 All I can hear, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. Even those tears, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. No one's frightened of playing it, everyone's saying it, flowing more freely than wine. All through the day, I, me, mine. 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 All I can hear, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. Even those tears, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. No one's frightened of playing it, everyone's saying it, flowing more freely than wine. All through your life, I, me, mine. This next one, I think, is off Living in the Material World album. Well, the Lord loves the one that loves the Lord. And the Lord says if you don't give, then you don't get love. And the Lord helps those that help themselves. And the Lord says whatever you do is gonna come right back on you. Well, we all make it out like we own this whole world, and the leaders of nations acting like big fools with no thought for their God, who supplies us with all. And when death comes to claim them, who will stand and who will fall? Well, the Lord loves the one that loves the Lord. And the Lord says, well, if you don't give, then you don't get love. And the Lord helps those that help themselves. And the Lord said, whatever you do is gonna come right back on you. Well, we all move around with objectives in mind, to become rich or famous with our reputations signed. But the few that can reach to this coveted slot can't escape old age creeping through their bodies like a rot. Well, the Lord loves the one that loves the Lord. And the Lord said if you don't give, then you don't get love. And the Lord helps those that help themselves. And the Lord says whatever you do is gonna come right back on you. Yeah, the Lord loves the one that loves the Lord. And the Lord says if you don't give, then you don't get love. And the Lord helps those that help themselves. And the Lord says whatever you do is gonna come right back on you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. There's no time for more, I don't think. One more. Should I? Okay, well, this one is it's partly a kirtan. It's on George's album called Dark Horse, and maybe it's a good one to end on because it's chanting the holy names. So it's partly a kirtan and partly some verses that George wrote. So it is called It Is He, Jai Shri Krishna. Jaya Krishna, Jaya Krishna, Krishna, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Shri Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Krishna, Krishna, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Shri Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Krishna, Krishna, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Sri Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe. He whose sweetness flows to any one of those who cares to look his way, see his smile, Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Krishna, Jai Krishna, Krishna, Jai Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Krishna, Jai Krishna, Krishna, Jai Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna. He who is complete, three worlds at his feet, the source of every star, it is he, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Krishna, Jai Krishna, Krishna, Jai Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Krishna, Jai Krishna, Krishna, Jai Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. You can have more later on when I play with the band. We give them more time to play.
He's come all the way from Burgess Hill, is it? Is it Burgess Hill?
Hurstpier Point.
Oh, there you go.
And if you don't know where that is, it doesn't matter. It's near Brighton.
Look, Trilokanath. Hare Krishna. Trilokanath, his good wife, Kundalata, are the only people I know who've got a yurt in their back garden. Yurt. And his daughter and son-in-law live in the yurt. It's a beautiful yurt. I wouldn't mind living in a yurt. Very nice. It solves the housing problem if your garden's big enough. It's a big yurt. Some of you who've been to these meetings before will be familiar with Shamsunda. How many of you been to the George evenings and Shamsunda's spoken? Oh, not many of you. Okay. How many of you have been to the George evenings and Gurudas has spoken? How many of you were there when they both spoke? Yeah, that was quite an evening. So Shamsunda's not here this year. You probably know he's brought out a trilogy of books called Hunting Rhinos with the Swami. Now, Prabhupada didn't go hunting rhinoceroses. It's against our principles. But the idea is that if you're going to go chasing after something, make it big. Because if you fail, people say, you couldn't have got that. Come on. You know? But if you do catch it, whoa, you caught a rhinoceros. This is Prabhupada's thinking. He was very bold, so bold to do what he did. And that's a whole lifetime story. Have any of you reading the Prabhupada biographies about Prabhupada? Not many of you. Go on, let's see the hands up. Come on, wave your hand. Okay, wave two hands. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai. So these biographies are wonderful access, insights into Prabhupada and his relationships with his disciples and devotees and visitors and guests. They're a real insight into his wonderful qualities. And Shamsundar's written such a book, Chasing Rhinos with the Swami, so chasing. So over there in the corner, we've got some copies. We've got volume 1, and we've got volume 2. And volume 3, well, you can get that in America. And all being well, Shamsundar will be here at the end of next year, towards the end, hopefully this time of year, so you can come for the George evening. But volume 3 is done, it's all ready. And this evening, I'm going to read a few extracts from his from volume 3. So these are Shamsundar's interactions with George. And as many of you know, George and Shamsundar were very close. And George said, there's 3 people in my life, we must have been brothers in our last lifetime. So some of you know the answer to that one. Put up your hand if you know who one of those brothers might be. Now, I know you know, Matty. Anyone else? Well, Luke will know as well. I want someone who doesn't know. It's a silly question, isn't it? Put up your hand if you don't know. Yes, go on, tell me. Yeah, please, go on. Huh? Mukunda? No, not Mukunda. No. Anyone else? Yes? Yes. Yes, Shamsundar. And who are the other 2? Bob Dylan, yes. And the third one? Not Eric Clapton, no. Definitely not. Ravi Shankar, Bob Dylan, and Shamsundar. And George used to say we must have been brothers, very close, real buddies, you know. So here's an extract from the new book that's coming out. So this is page 45 to 48 for those who are reference conscious. So Shamsundar says, in the silence after, I asked George what songs he's working on these days, and he grabs an acoustic guitar and sings and hums a few lines of a song. Pretty much finished, he says. Give me love, give me love, give me peace on earth, give me light, give me life, keep me free from birth, give me hope, help me cope with this world below, trying to touch and reach you with heart and soul. What a wonderful song. Yeah, we could go on, but that's as far as in the book. Are you going to sing that one later? Yeah. Okay. That's on the repertoire this evening, so join in. It's a lovely song. So Shamsundar goes on, he says, because I didn't do it justice. Shamsundar says, flushed, feeling it. George wears a silly grin at the end, like, what do you think? I love it, George. Perfect. Wow, you're making such spiritual advancement. Now, that might sound condescending, but from Shamsundar, they were buddies. They could say what the heck they had. They had a punch-up one time. They actually had a punch-up. Shamsundar knocked George to the floor. We won't go into details, but they straight up, George crossed the line. He crossed the line. It was about Prabhupada. When it came to Prabhupada, Shamsundar was like a lion. Something that was So, in other words, if you can forgive someone for a punch in the face, you can be pretty close. So, he goes on to say, love it, George. You're making such spiritual advancement. And George says, yeah, maybe, but a lot of problems too. On our way to the library, George picks up a mandolin lying on the couch, and as we walk along, he plucks out a new tune. Here's another one I'm working on, maybe for Cilla Black. Not sure what we'll call it yet. Maybe Light of the World or something. I'm grateful. I'm not going to sing this one. I'm grateful to anyone who is happy or free for giving me hope while I'm looking to see the light that has lighted the world. He was thinking of giving it to Cilla Black, but I think George did a jolly good job of that one. Light of the world. We wind up in the small library, now converted to a day room. This is all at Friar Park, by the way, George's big mansion in Henley. Day room. It was like a den where you could sit and chat with guests, have tea, and look out on the fountain, the lawns and lakes. The room is stocked with symbols of George's interests. The psychedelic sit-down harmonium. Anyone seen a psychedelic sit-down harmonium before? Well, George had one. Guitars scattered around the room. Pictures of Krishna and Ganesh and Prabhupada and Yukteswar. Gold records on the walls. Tiffany lamps. Candles in holders. Flowers in vases. Picture books. A little marble Shiva statue. We talk about how special the Bangladesh concert was. George says, yeah, but you wouldn't believe the hassle afterwards. And he tells me about the complications that followed the performance for Bangladesh. It was a charity, for God's sake. The government wanted to tax everything, and then the record companies withheld the money. Lawyers messed up the whole thing. I'm not sure if any of the money even got to those poor blokes in Bangladesh. George is deeply disturbed. It seems like everything he tries to do is troubled by lawyers and litigation, bumbling bureaucracy. He grabs a banjo, plucks a few square dance riffs, and sings a few lines from Sue Me, Sue You Blues. Bring your lawyer and I'll bring mine. Get together and we could have a bad time. Are there any lawyers in the audience? Any lawyers in the audience? Okay. Lawyers are great. They help you win cases, but they can be a little expensive sometimes. You know, after all that, I just withdrew here to Friar Park to garden, chant, and hang out with Ravi. I can see it now. George is in a monkish period, practicing his sadhana, holding on to what he's learned from Srila Prabhupada. I don't go to Berry Place very much, not since Mukunda left it a year or so ago, George says. Now, who's saying this one? Yes, Shamsundar. Yeah, it's getting really crowded down there. Since you've told the whole world about Krishna, devotees are joining left, right, and center. There's no room for all of them. This is Shamsundar speaking. I'm thinking about forming a charitable trust without paying so many taxes and getting ripped off by the lawyers. Then I can help people like you, buy you a temple, or what I like, an ashram like this place in the country, and all this fresh air. So this is George's philanthropic, generous side coming out, which was just below the surface. Such a generous person, big-hearted. Shamsundar goes on, the full-length French doors are open, and perfume from the fresh-mown lawns mingles with some special agarbatti George has found and wants me to try. For a long time we don't speak, just gaze out at the gentle summer rain falling on layers and layers of green. The yellow-green of willows, the blue-green of spruce trees, and every shade of emerald. As dusk falls, I describe the past 2 years traveling with Prabhupada. How amazing he is. What a special blessing it is to be Prabhupada's secretary. Shamsundar. In the semi-dark, George's eyes gleam with understanding as he hears the story of Prabhupada's beauty and love and superhuman powers. George discloses his heart. I get it. I practice. I feel the connection. But sometimes I fall, do bad things. What to do? Well, yours is a very rare path, George. Finding your way through the most dazzling stuff Maya can throw at a person. But just like an electric fan, when it's unplugged, the blades will turn for a while, then they stop, slowly stop. The whole world knows about Krishna now because of you, George. Krishna is so happy with you. You know, I'm ready to go. Anytime, Krishna, just take me away, I'll gladly go. No more material fantasies, George? Well, maybe a few, but I've got a lot of work to do, trying to get a message through. Sounds like a song there, doesn't it? Not many more words are said. We'd sort of get started and the other would finish the thought, understand the rest. We'd argued through the philosophy years ago. Now we were two ships in a great sea, and despite all weathers, still on the same course. George and I are like brothers, alike in so many ways. Perhaps I'm the side of George that gave up the clamor to become a monk, and he's the monk that has to live with the clamor. Prabhupada really wants to see you. When are you going to come into London to see him? That's meant to be Shamsundar. And George replies, maybe you can bring him here. I'd love to show him all this. And that will lead us on to our next little excerpt. But right now, we'd like to show you a video put together by a multi-talented drummer here, Matti. He's very talented. He does video editing. He does session work for studio works as well. So, are we okay on the balcony? Can we see a hand on the balcony? Anyone on the balcony? As we said, this is very informal. You have to kind of go along with the flow here, you know. Haribol. What happened to those on the balcony? Where's our sound engineer? Oh, he's there. Are you okay? It's
Mr. George Harrison.
Handle me with care. Give me peace on earth.
I think you might have been the most anxious of the four to get out.
Maybe,
Yeah. I
It
wonder
was
why.
very well because over the years, you know, I had such a lot of songs mounting up that I really wanted to do, but I only got my quota of 1 or 2 tunes per album, and that way I would have had to have recorded about 100 Beatle albums just to get out the tunes I had in 1965. I'm not really as serious as people think or have thought. You know, they always thought that I was the serious one, but really that is kind of a mask to hide the madman inside of me, which is really like a Monty Python lunatic. Oh, Lord, you pay the price with the spin of the wheel. Dice. Ah, yeah, you pay your fare, and if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. It was important to me, rather than pursuing another $1 million or another hit record, was to find out who am I, where have I come from, and where am I going.
George Harrison to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Jeff Lynne and Hall of Fame inductee Tom Petty.
Thank you.
Some years ago, George asked me to speak and present him with a Billboard Lifetime Achievement Award. And he began his acceptance speech by saying, "I'm sure being in the Beatles has not been a hindrance to my solo career." Having stood on stage and off between Lennon and McCartney is a really tough spot for an aspiring songwriter. Yet learning his craft, he grew into an excellent writer, coming up with classics like Something, Here Comes the Sun, many more. He became so prolific that he began to stockpile large amounts of unreleased songs, and this would become the basis for his first album, All Things Must Pass. Which was the first #1 album by an ex-Beatle. And many more hits would come. He often said he wasn't pursuing a solo career at all. He never hired a manager or had an agent. He just loved playing music with his friends, and he loved guitars, and he loved rock and roll, and he loved Carl Perkins, and he loved Little Richard, and he loved Danny and Olivia.
Hare Krishna.
And he loved to stay up all night long and play the ukulele till dawn, till the kids were all in bed and tucked away. Throughout the 80s,
He had a COVID shot today. He's feeling like a car crash. And he had to go. He's been very helpful. That's the car crash. Probably a lot worse than that. So, sorry, we were going to show some videos, but there's no sound. So I'm sorry to Matty to disappoint. You also. What's that? Yes, we're getting there. I'm the filler man. I'm just making excuses for what's going on. Yes. So, do you guys want to come forward, Luke and Gogo? And we got two more of our band, Inner Light. Luke and his good wife, Gogo. Have any of you seen the new Get Back film that's coming from Disney of the Beatles recording? Not many of you. 1, 2, 3. Few of you. Yeah. Because we're not here to promote the Beatles. In the movie, in the studio, it's a studio film, very kind of fly on the wall. And lo and behold, didn't anyone see the devotees in the film? You can see Shamsundar and Mukunda. They're there at the back of the studio. Giving support for George, I would very much think. George was very close to the devotees at that point. He was working with them. And so they were giving him much needed support because it was a pretty rough time. Okay. Okay. There's a very nice song that George wrote called Be Here Now. Be here now. Is everybody here now? Are you being here now? It's not easy being here now, actually. We tend to be thinking about yesterday or the day before it, or we're thinking about the future. But being here now it's actually an art, and it's the key to spiritual life. George says a few words about it here in his book. Be here now. Be Here Now was written in Nichols Canyon, Los Angeles. A week after Miss Odell, I moved from Malibu, as it was too far to drive to the studio each day. I was almost falling asleep. I had the guitar in bed, and the melody came fast. This is how you write songs. You take your guitar to bed with you. The lyric was inspired by the funny story called The Transformation of Richard Alpert into Baba Ram Das. So he was a bit of a mystic, but he thought he was God. That was his own problem. That was the big problem. But being here now is a very important aspect of any spiritual path. And here we have it. Luke and Gogo. Hare Krishna.
First of all, I'm absolutely delighted to see so many of you here tonight. You've been participating in this amazing event that Sachi has been putting on every year. Used to be in the manor in the little room next to the temple room, and it grew from quite a small number to slowly getting like completely packed. Like you come in and there was like so many people, like really, it was amazing. And obviously it didn't happen, I think, for either 2 or 1 or 2 years. Anyway, so happening again and with a big bang, like to see that many people is really amazing. Yeah. Who knows? Might pack the Prashadam room as well. Otherwise, just a little note on George Harrison and the impact, obviously, that he has on your life and all of our life. I actually was just reflecting today that, in a way, he's kind of like the reason why I'm here in this country and why we met in a very kind of broad way. But the reason why this temple is here and why he's here and ended up gravitating around as well. So it's quite a large impact if you see that, because I'm from France. Don't know if you can tell with my accent. But yeah, so it's kind of a big impact. And I think today we're celebrating 20 years of his passing, I believe. Is it 20 years? Yeah. So it's like a big celebration, so I'm really grateful for everyone to have come here tonight. So yes, the song we're going to do is Be Here Now, which is a really beautiful, quite meditative song about really kind of remembering to be in the present moment and not let the mind, always the mind, comes a lot in our philosophy to try to like help the mind to just focus on what's important and not let it drift in so many thoughts and so many distractions. So this is Be Here Now. Hopefully not spinning away. be here now. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening.
That was truly wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for being a loyal supporter and contributor to this evening over the years. You two have made a big difference. Thank you very much indeed. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Dave, where's Dave? Yeah, do you want to bring your Santur up on stage? It's all right, don't worry. This is Mr. Dave Stuckey. He's a musician. Sit on the floor. Use him.
Sit on the chair.
And he plays this instrument called Santur. He's a music teacher, guitar teacher. And this is a bit similar to the European hammer dulcimer. It's a lovely celestial sound. But we're going to tie in his particular talent with another reading from Shyam Sundar's George, reminiscences about George. Sorry. Do you want two? One or two? Okay. I'll leave you to adjust the records. So we're back at we're back with George in his big mansion for the next reading, and this one's a little bit different. Anyone here been to Friar Park? Oh, wow, one. Let's put your hands up, come on. Two of you? Just two? Okay. You got the George Harrison Fan Club Award of the evening. Dedicated, they're going to have been to Friar Park. Did you get inside the gate? No. Okay. You tried? There's a, huh? Oh, you got the first bit, your arm in. You got it blessed then. That bit's blessed, all right. There's a devotee who used to go to school next in Henley-on-Thames. And the school was practically next door to Friar Park. And him and his mates at school used to get through a hole in the fence and kind of wander around Friar Park. And I'm not sure whether it was Gokulananda. Who knows Gokulananda? Yeah. And I can't recall if George was living there at the time or if it was still the nuns. I can't remember. But him and his mates used to roam around Friar Park. It's just a house, of course, but it has some wonderful place what George did with that. So here we are, another reading. Chasing Rhinos with the Swami, page 51. So on the afternoon of July 13th, 1972, I guided the temple's tank-like Ford Transit panel van. That sounds dramatic. With Srila Prabhupada buckled into the passenger seat, away from Reading and 8 miles down Henley Road to Friar Park. It was a gorgeous, lazy summer afternoon, and we saw people with parasols rowing on the River Thames. George, this is Shyam Sundar, who's an American. He was besotted by the English culture. He loved the English culture. You don't get English culture in America. You don't get much culture in America, but no, just a joke. All you guys online, it's just a joke. It's the English sense of humor. Patty greets us at the heavy castle door, shy and beautiful as ever, in a canary yellow blouse and culottes under a long, open, cream-colored gauzy camise. Jeez. She was a fashion model after all, you know. She tells us George will be along in a minute. She leads us through the vestibule into the main room, and we sit on couches, a little awkward. Prabhupada sitting forward and resting his head on his cane as his eyes take in the splendor of this vast English hall. Suddenly, George bursts into the room. his arms filled with fresh-cut flowers from his garden. He dumps them on a table and falls flat on his face before Srila Prabhupada. He didn't trip up. He's offering his full dandabats. How many of you offer dandabats to Radha Gokulananda when you go in the temple room? Not pranams, full-out dandabats. Not many. You're going in the house of the Supreme Lord, and God is on the altar. And so many times people do this, they do that. Pay your obeisances, for God's sake. Yes, the place is, this is Krishna's home. Obeisances, dandabats. George Harrison does this in Prabhupada. He's a multimillionaire. He's famous all over the world. He pays his full-out dandabats to Srila Prabhupada. This is his humility. George is very humble. Falls flat on his face before Srila Prabhupada, who's beaming with pride, not arrogance. He's proud of George, this wonderful devotee. And then he rubs his hand through George's hair. George is in his usual country attire, bell-shaped, bell-bottom jeans, note belt, and a light blue work shirt. His face suffused with a rare happiness. They catch up. George, Shamsundar's been telling me, it sounds like you've been setting India on fire. Prabhupada, yes, we have made some impression. And how are things at Berry Place? They have become so crowded that they are sleeping on the stairs. George says, you need a place like this. Anyone here visit Berry Place? Just 1, 2, yeah, 3. Berry Place. Yeah, we used to sleep on the stairs. We used to sleep under the printing press. We used to sleep in the shower room. We used to sleep in the shower. In the shower. Of course, we turned the water off. It was so crowded, so successful, the preaching. It just went roaring ahead. Amazing. Everyone was welcome. Yeah, come on, come and join us. Come and join us. Come and join us. Shave your head. Of course, just the gentlemen, not the ladies, you know. But they had to sleep packed like sardines in a tiny little room. It was austere, but it was very blissful. Very blissful. George says, you need a place like this. And we stand to make a tour of the place. George leads us up the wide staircase through a long hallway, past the huge master bedroom with its canopied bed, to his temple room, along one wall of which the room, there's a 12-foot long marble slab supported and surrounded by massive carved mahogany columns, balustrades, and intaglio backdrops. I love the way that Shamsundar uses words of description. It's breathtaking. At the center of George's altar is the 3-foot-high Orissa-style pagoda I'd built a couple of years ago, Shamsundar speaking, painted bright gold with a color picture of Radha Landaneshwara inside. Candles stand in front of them, and on the right, a big picture of Krishna seated, wearing a jeweled crown and playing his flute. On the left, Krishna dances on the hoods of the Kaliya demon. Shamsundar says, wow, George, this is magnificent, I say. But George is modest. I chant around here every morning and meditate. Light some agarbatti. You won't see me around the house most days till in the afternoon. Sorry, excuse my accent, just to get a bit of atmosphere there. Then we walk around outside for a while, chattering like chipmunks. Prabhupada has the outsized head and feet of a gangly walk of a teenager, loose at the waist, in full stride, neck cocked back, knifing the wind. He's on a leisurely summer afternoon stroll in Oxfordshire with gentlemen and a lady to see the estate and examine the world affairs. We walk through the alpine gardens at the base of the Matterhorn. Matterhorn's a mountain in Switzerland, and there was a miniature Matterhorn in George's gardens. I mean, it was very miniature, you know, maybe 30 foot high. Not the size of the full Matterhorn, of course. And, there we go, yes, Matterhorn. Past the topiary, the herb garden, and over to the maze. George explains to Prabhupada, you go in that opening in the hedge and try to find your way out this opening over here. Prabhupada says, yes, it is just like the material world. You are lost inside. Anyone here been to a maze? Anyone been lost in a maze? You found your way out. Congratulations. But it's a bit worrying sometimes. Just like the material world, you are lost inside. You cannot get out. But if you find a spiritual master, he can tell you this way, that way, and you will come out and be successful. We pause on the way back to the house when I ask if I can take a photo of everyone. I can see George is a little uptight with that, probably thinking by tomorrow it'll be in the Daily Mirror. Beatles' new guru, but he agrees reluctantly. George was very protective of his private life. He didn't like intrusion of cameras and journalists, but he was ready to share his journey, of course, through his songs. He agrees reluctantly. Shamsunda says, I know I've only got one shot at this. There will be no, now you take the camera and take a photo of us. So I shoot the now famous shot of the four of them. Prabhupada on the far left in the flower garden garland, hand on his cane, upright and smiling, proud of his children. Patty close on the left, grinning and shy. George a bit distant from her, hip-cocked and formal, almost grim, and 2 feet away to his left, shaven-headed Dhananjaya in his robes. Maybe thinking, hey, I'm just the new guy here. Making our way slowly back to the house, we pass a lake. Weeping willows and tall Scots pines cast across the water in a tranquil reflection. And Prabhupada says, we can see the trees on the bank reflect upon the water with their branches down and their roots up. Urdhva moolam adasakam. In other words, the tree of this material world is upside down. Only the reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. It is just but a reflection. This tree, this material tree, is an exact replica. Everything is there, original in the spiritual world. The material world is the perverted reflection. So the spiritual world must have the same variegatedness, but in reality. A reflection is temporary, for it is sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from whence the reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. Back inside the manor, we move to the small south-facing day room in the alpenglow of a long midsummer evening. Prabhupada turns to George and says, now you have given Krishna to the whole world, and he has given you reciprocal. You have a very nice arrangement. Practically, you have everything, wealth, fame, beauty. But all of this is gone at the moment of death. Imagine saying something like that to someone who's got everything, a pop star. Prabhupada was able to gauge everyone, gauge exactly how much to say and how much to say it. And George is all ears. I mean, listen to George's songs. He talks about mortality and death in a way which makes one introspective. It never sounds morbid. Never sounds morbid. So Prabhupada's preaching to George. Prabhupada sits in an armchair in the half light, and there is, yes, a bluish aura around him, around us. Time is suspended in the gloaming as Prabhupada gives us transcendental vision and takes us with him into the spiritual world. In the spiritual sky, there is nothing but freshness. Even the flowers picked from the trees and plants, David. Even the flowers picked from the trees and plants remain fresh. For everything in the spiritual sky retains its originality and does not fade. The fragrance of the flowers picked from the trees and made into garlands does not fade. For both the trees and the flowers are spiritual. Paritam Vana Malaya. The bees are equally attracted to the flowers, whether they are on the garland or on the trees. The significance of spirituality is that everything is eternal and inexhaustible. Everything taken from everything remains everything. everything taken from everything remains everything. The bees hum around the fresh flowers, and their sweet sound is enjoyed by the Lord. A phone jangles somewhere deep in the house, and Patty rushes off to answer it. Shadows deepen across Prabhupada's face, and a patch of late sun reflected from a mirror slowly moves across the floor by his feet as he continues. I'm going to abbreviate this and cut it down quite a bit, because there's quite a bit. Prabhupada's talking about the spiritual world. Chintamani prakara sadmashu kalpabriksha lakshavarteshu. In the transcendental world, as we have got experience here, the houses are made of bricks. There, the houses are made of Chintamani stone. Of course, there is no exact translation, but it is understood it is something like touchstone. Touchstone means the stone which, if it touches iron, it transforms into gold. So the abode of Krishna is described that there are houses. Chintamani prakara sadmashu. Prakara means house. And Kampabriksha, that the trees are desire trees. What is that desire tree? Just like here in this material world, a tree is meant for delivering a particular fruit or flower. But desire tree means whatever you desire, you get immediately, delivered from the tree. Kalpa means whatever you like, whatever you will, the tree will immediately supply. Everything is complete. Such a place and such abode and such activities are described about Krishna. And in the Vaikuntha world, the spiritual sky, only the mode of goodness in its pure form exists. The Lord and his devotees reside in the Vaikuntha planets, and they are of the same transcendental quality, namely Shuddha Sattva, the mode of pure goodness. The Vaikuntha planets are very dear to the Vaishnavas, and for the progressive march of the Vaishnavas towards the kingdom of God, the Lord himself helps his devotees. Bhagavan Shabda Gochara. Shamsundar says, and this is the kicker. This is the punchline. Prabhupada says, but even within the material world, one can spiritualize one's existence by seeing the Supreme Lord within everything and worshipping him by constant meditation. We sit silently for many minutes as the sun winks out. A quick glance at my watch says 9:15. A full dark descends on the room. Prabhupada holds us in a magic spell. And I sense this is a historic moment. Prabhupada has zapped us, convincing George beyond all doubt now. Then he finally speaks. George clears his throat and then says in a husky voice, I want to buy you an ashram like this place. I will get my estate agents on it starting tomorrow. And that was the door that opened to George finding Bhaktivedanta Manor. Hare Krishna. Thank you, David, for a very nice Santur. He'll give you Santur lessons if you've got 5 minutes just after we finish. So we'd like to ask the band to come and step forward. Inner Light, and while they're setting up and launching with their first number, we're going to be serving a few rare delicacies for you to nibble. It's not popcorn, it's not ice lollies. We'll leave a little surprise for you. We're bringing some snacks for you right now. So thanks again. Inner Light will be playing till about 10 o'clock. We've got books at the back over there. Some of Prabhupada's books and Shamsundar's Volume 1 and Volume 2, if anyone want to catch up with Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. A wonderful insight into the early days in Krishna consciousness. So please take advantage of some special festival prices over there. And thank you again for coming, and I hope you enjoy the evening. Thank you. Hare Krishna. One thing I need to mention, I'm very sorry for the sound, or the lack of sound. Big glitch tonight. I believe the sound went out online, but it's no good sitting here, all you people, and you can't hear what's going on. So sorry about that. One other announcement. There's been you could say a deliberate mistake here this evening. Deliberate mistake, not the sound system. No, not that. I don't know if any of you spotted it. That's a hint. Spotted it. I don't know if anyone's seen it. Has anyone seen that deliberate mistake? Sir? Yes. Anyone else? You couldn't hear it over there. Anyone else? Okay. Yes. Russell Brand, yes. So no prizes, but he was up there. He used to come here. Russell Brand chants Hare Krishna. It was a mistake, but we thought to leave it in, have a bit of fun. So you noticed it. So thank you very much. Inner light. Hare Krishna.
A big round of applause for Sakshi for putting this event on every year. Does a great job.
Russell Harty. There's nothing in the drum monitor. Nothing in the drum monitor. Good. It's good cash,
You get some sound in the drum monitor. We got there. Tree, how you doing?
Okay, everybody, we're called the Inner Light, and please, while you're honouring Prasadam, please don't talk, because it really bugs me, and I'll walk off the stage. Just saying. Because, like, we're not a cruise ship band, you know?
Cheeky.
I'm just being honest, you know, if we're playing music, please don't be chatting away while we're playing, it's not really cool. Thank you.
Alright, ready?
I think so.
Okay, so we're going to play you some Hari songs. This one's called What Is Life? What I know, you say, but
have some bass, please, in the monitor? Vidakesh. Some bass guitar, please.
Okay. This next song is from the All Things Must Pass album. It's called Art of Dying. Let's go. Thank you very much. It's great to see so many. Whoa, what is that? There we go.
Yeah, it's going to make noise again.
Yeah, very noisy. Yeah, it's great to see so many of you here tonight, and I hope you've enjoyed the evening. This next song you should all know, and it goes like this.
to the left, to the right, above and below us. There's no place that you're not in. Won't you hear me, Lord? Give it up for Back to Luke on the bass guitar, everybody. And Mr. Matty Dread on the drums. Shalokunath on lead guitar. Nai Mukunda, thanks so much for checking us out. Take it away, Tree. you.
Thank you for not talking. Tuning. No, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate that. It's been a long lifetime.
I'm sorry, I have to tune it. So you wouldn't like it if I didn't.
you. Thanks, everyone. It's a really strange sound up here on the stage. It's really odd. But I hope it's sounding better out there.
Does it sound okay out there, guys? Yeah? Cool. All right.
We're not looking for compliments. Really sounding weird on the stage. Sounding quite ghostly.
Isn't it a pity? Now isn't it a shame how we break each other's hearts and cause each other pain? How we take each other's love without thinking anymore, forgetting to give back. Now isn't it a pity? Some things they take so long. How do I say? When
world do I own? And the sadness from all that is gone. And in this darkness I'll wait for the day. Yes, it's true. I live for you. All this time my thoughts return to you. My love, that is all. Wait in line till I feel you inside. Yes, it's true. I live for you. All this time my thoughts return to you. My love, that is all I can do. Wait in line till I feel you inside. Yes, it's true. I live for you. Thank you very much. Cheers. All things must pass. Sunrise gonna last all morning. Dusk doesn't last all day. Seems my love is up, has left you with no warning. It's not always
everyone. Thank you. All right, we're down to our last few songs. This next one.
Patience.
This one goes out to all of us living in the iron age of Kali.
Watch out now, I'll take you everywhere you fall and swim. Dropping all around you. The pain off your fingers. Beware of the hopelessness surrounds you in the dead of night. Beware of darkness, it can hurt you. Make you soaring once more. That is not what you are here for. Watch out now, take care beware of sea shufflers dancing down the sidewalk. The hope that you suffer, life is endless beware of fire.
you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Give me time to tune up now.
Let's hear it for Mookie on the lead vocals and guitar. Give it up, please. Lukananda on the bass and vocals. And Trilokanath on guitar and vocals.
What about Matty on the drums, please? What about Matty on the drums?
And to all of you for coming and making this a very beautiful evening in remembrance of our man George, Sri Man George. Did so much for Srila Prabhupada and it's never forgotten. It's amazing. We're very honoured to be able to play here. And let's hear it for our Sakshi Gopal Prabhu, who organises this every year and always gets us adverts to come and play. So.
It'd be a lot quicker if it was up to me, but it's these strings, you know.
Annoying, aren't they?
go, 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 go,